Someone once told me everything you ever wanted was on the other side of your fears. And I took that to heart to say, sometimes you have to take a leap of faith. God's got you. Sometimes you have to step out and say, you know what? I've got confidence in who I am, and I'm going to take a step out on faith and do something untraditional. Because had I not, me being an inner city kid coming from Harlem would never be a CEO of an aquarium.
Guess I'm awake now. Timeline reminding me it ain't safe now. Why would I cape now? Too real for it.
How's everyone doing? My name is Kinard Robinson, and this is the Known and Connected podcast, the podcast where we really focus on talking about how your network and how your relationships really contribute to your journey, because no one makes it to any level of success on their own. Today I have with me Mr. Joe Handy, CEO of the Clearwater Marine Aquarium. Thank you for being here, my man.
Kinard, man, I appreciate you inviting me to your podcast. I'm looking forward to having this discussion and giving an opportunity to learn a little bit more about me and my journey.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's definitely an honor and a privilege to have you on. So why don't we jump right into it? So for those that may not know, who is Joe Handy?
I'm a guy from New York City, Harlem, New York to be exact. And I've gotten to this point in my life by way of great mentors, folks that invested in me, and following a God that can still make a straight line out of a crooked stick. So although my life's journey has had ups and downs and has gone every which way, I still ended up where I needed to be, sort of grounded by the investments that strong women have put in me at an early age, and fine-tuned by some really strong mentors as I matured in my career. So I'm a culmination of a lot of different people who have invested in me and helped me get to where I am.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And honestly, man, I couldn't agree more. I often tell people I'm the product of everyone that has ever loved me, cared about me, poured into me, and making sure that I do my best to always reflect that. So I appreciate you sharing that perspective. So let's kind of jump into that, man, because you said a few things that jumped out to me. I mean, strong women, mentors, and a journey that may not have been traditional or may not have gone the way that you expected it to go. So can we jump into some of that?
Absolutely. So growing up, admittedly, I didn't have a lot of aspirations. There were folks that told me, because I had a talent for mediating between friends that were arguing or fighting or things that were going on in my neighborhood, that I should be an attorney. So I looked at being an attorney and tried to go down that route. And I realized when I was in school, and that's a different part of it, I realized when I was in school that there was just a lot of books that to be an attorney that I did not want to do, and I didn't want to read. But initially, even the journey of going to college, I didn't really aspire to be in the college. I used to laugh and joke with my friends who used to say, "What are you going to do after high school?" And I said, I was going to UCLA up on the corner of Lenox Avenue, which was the street that I grew up on. But through life's journey, I found a purpose, and I found joy in helping people, being around people, and that's kind of how I matriculated through my life to get me to where I am today.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So thinking about being in the aquarium space and the journey that you've had, can you kind of walk us through how your journey unfolded?
Absolutely. So once again, as stated, didn't really look at college as a direction I wanted to go into, but having strong women in my life, particularly my mother and my grandmothers, they kind of forced the issue. And I went to college, didn't do well, admittedly, didn't do well in school, and struggled with being away from home, being away from my neighborhood, being away from my friends. And it took me a long journey to get through college. But in that time, I started working at the American Museum of Natural History in New York City. And just like I would imagine any young person, just trying to figure out, how do you get to the bag? How do you get money? How do you become independent and you're not relying on other people's dollars for you to be able to do what you want to do. So I worked at the museum. I started off in the education department as a summer job. And through that journey, I realized what fed my passion, what fed my soul was being in a position to help people, to educate people, and learning from people's journey and their own story. So I worked at the museum, once again, looking at different positions. I worked in the education department. I worked in the exhibits department. I worked in the call center. I worked at the point of sale. I worked in the security department, just a bunch of different positions. Didn't realize that that was going to be beneficial to my career, because what was happening as I was working in all of these different departments, and to me, it was just, okay, which department was paying more? And I would jump to get a better salary. But during that time, I was acquiring a unique skill set. I was learning how to navigate different departments, different personalities, and learning a lot more about myself and learning a lot more about the business of the museum. So Bernie Marcus, who is the co-founder of Home Depot, was looking to give back to the city of Atlanta and the state of Georgia for what he attributed his success. Believed that had he not opened up Home Depot in Atlanta, in Georgia, it would not have had the success that it had had. So he went on what we call a listening tour. He wanted to give back to the city and state, and he wanted to give back an aquarium. So he went and visited almost every attraction in the world. And on this listening tour, he took back what worked, what didn't work, and asked questions like, if you had it to do all over again, what would you do differently? He came to the Museum of Natural History and had those questions. And trying to get a bunch of executives together to respond to a laundry list of questions was difficult. We had the American Museum of Natural History had just opened up the Rose Center for Earth and Space, and I was part of that opening as well. And the executives at the museum said, well, there's this one guy that's been in just about every department that we've had that you can talk to, that can give you a little bit of insight on how the opening went and different aspects of the museum. One thing led to another, and Bernie Marcus, who is the primary benefactor of the Georgia Aquarium, asked me to come to Atlanta and open up the Georgia Aquarium along with the rest of the team. And that really jump-started my career, having my time at the American Museum of Natural History, but really grounding and seeding my career path at Georgia Aquarium. And that's kind of taken me to visit so many places, afforded me a life where I'm fulfilled and excited about the work that I do.
That's awesome. There are so many components of your story that we can dive into and spend an absurd amount of time on. I think the two top things that stood out to me. Number one is recognizing that you did not do the best in school, but you still tried to figure your way through. I'm sure that there are a lot of people that can probably relate to that. Mm-hmm. And the second thing being, you were, regardless of your reasoning, right, because you were focused on trying to get more money, yep, but you were open to doing just about anything within the space that you were in. So you were willing to jump, you were willing to learn, and you were willing to do things differently than what you may have initially thought about.
Yes, all of that. And the other thing that I would add is you can't be afraid, because there are some people that I grew up with that are very comfortable in the position that they're in. And what I realized was that I was never comfortable. I was always looking for something more, looking for something that was going to better myself and better my family. And someone once said, and I'm really big on quotes, someone once told me, everything you ever wanted was on the other side of your fears. Mm. And I took that to heart to say, sometimes you have to take a leap of faith. God's got you. Sometimes you have to step out and say, you know what? I've got confidence in who I am, and I'm going to take a step out on faith and do something untraditional. Because had I not, me being an inner city kid coming from Harlem would never be a CEO of an aquarium. And had I not had confidence and faith in myself and confidence and faith in what the Lord had planned for me, for my journey, I would not have been as ambitious, or I would not have taken the risks that I've taken to get to where I am today. So if I were to look back and say, what are some of the key decisions that I've made that have carried me, it is, don't be afraid. Just do it. I mean, I know that may sound cliche, but the reality of it is things find a way of working themselves out.
Absolutely. I remember when I quit my corporate job to jump out on my own into entrepreneurship. I had a very similar mindset, and I always told people, and I still tell people, I'm perfectly okay with jumping out of the plane with no parachute and figuring it out on the way down.
Yeah.
And a lot of that comes back to what having not being fearful of what's on the other side. Having the confidence that things will work its way out, and knowing that you're going to do everything that you can to the best of your ability to be successful. Some things may work out the way you want it. Sometimes it may not, but you're going to learn and you're going to get better no matter what.
I'll give you another quote that I live by. Experience is what you get when you don't get what you want. Everything is an experience.
I like that. Thank you for sharing that. So you met Bernie,
Yep.
right? And he asked you to come down to Atlanta to help jumpstart the Georgia Aquarium.
To be a part of the opening team. Yep.
Be a part of the opening team. So kind of talk through that experience, because it almost sounds like, and maybe I'm jumping the gun here, but it sounds like Bernie was one of your mentors that helped to kind of bring you along and help to, push your career forward.
Absolutely. Bernie was a mentor of mine. He was like a father to me. And I learned a lot, not just from our conversations, but observations of him. I mean, there were so many just casual jewels that he gave me in our conversations. I learned a lot about business. I learned a lot about people. I learned about putting people first. And I learned about how people receive people in leadership, and being mindful of the voice and your tone and your interactions. Even if they're not blatantly obvious to you, they have an impact on others. So the time that I've spent with him, I can't even imagine. I remember he was a funny guy, because he used to tell me all the time, people spend a lot of money to spend the amount of time with me that I spend with you. So I think I got a PhD. I learned a lot about his life's journey, which had a lot of similarities to mine, oddly enough. I learned about Home Depot and how Home Depot came to fruition, and just the mindset of having tenacity. And even if you go back to his journey and learning about his life story, he didn't open up Home Depot until he was a senior in his career. I mean, he was in his 49, 50s when he opened up and started, he and a few other gentlemen opened up Home Depot. So being late in your career, that, and being able to do something bold like that, just tells you about the individual and that character. And I was able to observe that the time that we spent together.
No, I can't imagine just the quality of that time, and how the immeasurable gift, right? That you were able to pull some of those things away, and I think that that's so important to have some of those mentors along the way. And I would also imagine that there were other individuals along your journey that helped to contribute to your path. Can you maybe speak to how maybe different mentors played different roles, as far as the things that you were able to learn from them or observe from them, and how those different people, those different personalities, those different way of doing things help to build your tool belt, so to speak, of growing in your career?
Oh, absolutely. I would say that had it not been for my mentors and the investment, their time, sharing their own experiences and guiding me along the way, I wouldn't have had the perspective that I bring to my everyday. And it's very important to have mentors. It's very important to be a mentor. And I look at mentorship a little differently in I still solicit mentors. I enjoy being a mentor to others, but I look at mentorship as cross-generational because I have mentors that are much younger than me that give me a perspective so that I can understand how the youth or younger folks are receiving the world that we live in so that I can be better equipped to handle my day to day. But I've had mentors in my mother, my grandmother, who have always consistently kept me grounded. My grandmother, up until the day she passed, she thought I worked at a library. And when I moved to Georgia from New York, she just thought that the library transferred me. I mean, she just, it's funny, but what that did for me was to remind me not to get too full of myself because titles don't really matter. It's more about the person that you are. And I had mentors in Bernie Marcus. I've had mentors in Mike Levin and Michael Coles who have had amazing careers, who've also taught me how to navigate through the business world and learning from all of their successes, but also giving me advice not to replicate some of their failures. But it's been a journey, and I appreciate everyone who has invested, who has had a conversation with me, and who has shared their experiences, both positive and negative, that allow for me to have a perspective, or I won't say a script, but I was able to look through their lens and apply my own action. So just having someone that has had experience in life or had experiences that I may not have had, just to give me a perspective on a like experience, has allowed for me to look through that lens and say, how does this compare and how should I navigate this time?
I agree with that. I often tell people, from my perspective, people say experience is the best teacher, right? And I think, similar to what you mentioned earlier, I say that other people's experience is the best teacher, because 9 times out of 10, by the time you're going through it or experiencing it, it's too late.
Yeah.
And what you're able to gain from other people is a roadmap, so to speak, like their roadmap, or maybe you can take their journey and apply some of those guidelines to what it is that you're doing, right? So you can maybe avoid a pitfall that maybe they experienced, right? And you still might trip, but you're going to trip on something completely different, right? That you're able to say, okay, well, I made it past this, so I know we're making progress. So now we're here. What else can I possibly pull from that's a similar situation that I can use to navigate this? Or who can I call that might have a perspective on this to be able to help navigate this situation? I would say that the impact of having strong mentors can be a major difference maker. And to your point, mentorship and leadership can come from anywhere.
Right.
I think I think it was KRS-One I heard talking about this. And what he said, when younger people listen to older people, it allows them to run faster than their peers because of the experience that they're able to gain from those older individuals.
100%.
Right? Now, he also said on the other side, when older people listen to younger people, it helps them to run faster than their peers because they're able to gain that youth experience, or maybe the energy that they get from the youth. So it's really a two-way street, right? Bringing that forward along with some of the things that what you said about the things that you're working on as far as, being a mentor to others, as well as, you still having mentors yourself. The one consistency that I pull from all that is impact, right? What impact are you able to have, right? And I think the impact that you're able to have on the people that you're mentoring is a difference maker. The impact that other people have on you, right, is a difference maker. So I think no matter where you are, you can always look and strive to make an impact.
100%. And there's two things I want to say. One of which is when we look at life, right, and it sums up kind of what you were saying early on. Life is best lived looking forward. You have to continue to look forward, but it's best understood looking back. So when you're looking forward, continue to be ambitious, continue to look at what's next, right? And how can you contribute to society and what you can do. But looking back, and that's when you look in your life and kind of reflect on the things that you've done and the things that you have been taught. And speaking with older people who have had experiences that you've never had is a form of looking back. So they're looking back and giving you that information so that you have better prepared to look forward. The other thing is, which is very important, and I learned this from two gentlemen. One, Tommy Dorch, who was the founder of the 100 Black Men of America, and Ambassador Young. One of the things that they taught me in mentoring is you can continue to be ambitious and reach forward, but you should take the other hand and reach back and pull people along with you. I can guarantee you that some of the rooms that I have been able to be in and navigate is because people like Ambassador Young, people like Tommy Dorch pulled me in. That didn't negate them from being able to pull themselves into different spaces or do good work, but they did not forget the necessity to bring people along the way with them. And I would say that that is one of the key things that we have to be mindful of is it is okay to be fearless. It is okay to be ambitious. It is okay to strive for what's next, but we owe it to everyone that's behind us to pull them in with us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So one of the things I do want to make sure that we jump back to is, you know, your journey and you getting to where you are now, right? As the CEO of Clearwater Marine Aquarium. So you were a part of the team that opened the Georgia Aquarium. And I'm sure you were there for some time before you made it down here to Clearwater. So can you pick up at that part of the journey and how you developed your career at Georgia Aquarium, leading you to the CEO here?
Absolutely. So Georgia Aquarium, similarly to my time at the American Museum of Natural History, I came in a leadership role at Georgia Aquarium to set up their front of house operations. And throughout my journey there, I just started to acquire different departments. So I started off with the visitor services, which shifted to guest experience because we really wanted to focus on the guest journey and their experience and the experiences that they leave with, not just experiences that they have when they're there, and experiences that they live with. And then I started getting the interpretive staff within the galleries, and then I got third-party vendors and contract negotiations, and then I got marketing, and I got volunteers, and I got HR, and then I got everything that I would consider dry side, right? So all of the touch points for our guests, but none of the animal side. And then ultimately I wound up getting the wet side as well. So overseeing the entire aquarium as president of Georgia Aquarium. And what was unique about that role is at the time that I was president of Georgia Aquarium, I was the only Black president of a zoo or an aquarium in the United States, in North America. And I realized at that point that there was a disconnect in getting communities of color engaged in marine life and career paths that exist in zoos and aquariums. There are 137 different career paths in zoos and aquariums. And sometimes we don't get the memo, right? So just because we may not have a discipline in marine biology, we can still have passion for chemistry. We can still have skill sets in accounting or PR or marketing. all of those disciplines are required in operating in a zoo or an aquarium. And in many cases, we weren't looking at that. I mean, it's similar, there are a lot of similarities in other businesses like CVS, for example. A lot of people don't look at careers in CVS because they think they have to be a pharmacist. But CVS needs store managers, they need business folks, they need a bunch of different disciplines. So in doing that, I paused working at Georgia Aquarium to work at the National Black MBA Association. And my interest in that was helping communities of color look at different ways to to earn a living and have different careers. In doing that, I wanted to also educate communities of color of opportunities that exist in other industries. So I stepped away from Georgia Aquarium, led National Black MBA Association for some time, and looking back, there was still not a lot of people of color in leadership roles at zoos and aquariums. Now things have changed, but even as I sit today as CEO of Clearwater Marine Aquarium, I'm the only Black CEO of an aquarium in the United States, North America. So there was still work for me to do. And that's how I landed in Clearwater Marine Aquarium. One, because I felt my work wasn't done. And two, there's so much opportunity at this aquarium because it's such a jewel of the city of Clearwater. And I am working tirelessly each and every day to shine that jewel so that the world can see it.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of great history here at the Clearwater Marine Aquarium. There are a lot of big things that are happening here. And I've been able to witness some of those things and be a part of some of those things. And I can honestly say that, you know, things are definitely transformational. This is a transformational point in time. And then I think that it's good that people are starting to see and really understand the impact, not just of the aquarium, but all the things that the aquarium does. So, you know, just kind of pivot off of what you said, you know, so in your current role, and the things that you're working on, the things that you're seeing, you know, if someone previously did not consider a career in the zoo or aquarium space, you know, what are some things that you could potentially share with them that will, you know, give them something to look into, or maybe some encouragement to say, hey, this is a really good place to be?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we can't narrow down our blessings, right? You can, and once again, I did not necessarily look at non-for-profits as a career path. I wanted to be an attorney. I didn't particularly look at aquariums as a career path, but I found my way in aquariums. And I would just say, don't isolate your blessings to one particular area. Be a little more open-minded to different things. If you have a passion for animals, this is a great place. If you have a passion for finance, if you have a passion for accounting, if you have a passion for doing good work, you can do that at a zoo or an aquarium. And I would say that it's rewarding to see the immediate impact you have when you work into this space. Clearwater Marine Aquarium is a little different than your traditional aquarium because we put the care of our animals to the forefront. So we're more of a hospital or extended care facility, because all of the animals that we have in our care have some sort of compromised health. So if you looked at a career in the medical field, you can come here. You can take care of the animals and still feel good about the work that you do. So I would just say, continue to look at zoos and aquariums. They have job boards and they have opportunities that you can look into. And the other thing that I would say is, you may find passion in something that you don't know right now. So you may say, you know what, I want to be, I don't know, a marketer. And you may find some connection in the work that you do to say, this makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside and I want to do this every day. That's kind of how I stumbled in this path.
Yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, we don't know what we don't know.
Exactly.
Right? But once we're able to learn, gain that perspective, gain that visibility, you know, our world starts to open up a little bit, and we can start to make decisions that we maybe didn't think that we would make, because now we have the perspective
Right.
in order to do that.
Right. It's all about exposure and perspective and experiences.
Absolutely. Well, another saying I always kind of pull together is I always do my best to recognize that I don't know what I don't know, but I do my best to put myself in a position to learn or to be exposed, because exposure is expansion.
Yep.
Right. And I think that makes the biggest difference in a lot of things that I try to do. Right. Well, listen, Joe, like, dude, this has been an awesome conversation. And I know that we can keep going for forever, but I know that you have a very busy schedule today. So to wrap things up, if there's anything that you can share that will help anyone that might be listening in their career efforts to reach that level of success that they desire.
Oh, 100%. I would say get out, right? So to your point of you don't know what you don't know who you're going to meet when you're out and about. Get out. Because if you stay isolated within the four walls of your house, apartment, whatever, that's all you're going to get. And you're going to look through the lens of someone else's eyes if you're just looking at social media or you're just looking at TV and things of that nature. You really have to get out and meet people and network. You will be amazed at how many opportunities present themselves just because people have seen your face in the spaces that they are at. So people can read a resume and won't know anything about you. But when someone has a conversation with you over dinner, over a networking event, and they say, oh, I met Joe here, I met Kinard, I know him. Not I read about him on a resume. I know him. I know how he interacts. I know how he is in public. I've seen him hold the door open. I've seen him do things that show me his character. You can't get that just sitting at home. So you have to go out. You have to be in spaces where there are other people that are like-minded and not like-minded. Because you may have a perspective on something, but after having a conversation with someone, you may change your perspective or get grounded on how you feel about something. And that does not exist reading something on a piece of paper. You have to get out.
Absolutely. And that's really what Next Known is all about, really helping to make sure that people have the skills, the tools and the resources to get out to meet people and really make sure that they're having those conversations and in those places to build those relationships. So we couldn't have ended on a better note. I definitely appreciate you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the conversation. And I feel like there are so many things that you mentioned towards the end here that we might have to have a part 2 of this. We might have to have a part 2. So
I'm here for it.
There might be a part 2 coming very soon. So again, thank you very much. Thank you for everyone that tuned in, for everyone that is listening. This has been an amazing conversation with my good friend Joe Handy, CEO of the Clearwater Marine Aquarium. And until next time, everyone, get out and get connected.